The views and opinions in the following program remain those of the producer or sponsor, and not those of Medford Community Cablevision, its staff, management, board of directors, or other affiliates.
Let me sail, let the Orinoco flow. Let me beach on the shores of Tripoli. Let me sail, let me crash up on your shore. Let me beach far beyond the yellow sea.
Hello and welcome to The Doctor Is In. I'm your host, Dr. William Girouard, chiropractor in Medford, in the Armory Building, Medford Square. Today I'm going to be talking about 3 or 4 different topics instead of the usual one topic. It'll give a little bit more information for you to get tonight, and I think it will be more helpful to get those extra topics in. The first topic I want to talk about is experienced exclusively by women, even though the whole family can be impacted by it. It's an often misunderstood condition that is, in its uncomplicated situation, is treatable and can be minimized greatly. With a holistic approach to health, which is how I run my office, these conditions respond quite well. The condition I'm talking about is PMS, premenstrual syndrome. Again, as a chiropractor, I don't treat disease or conditions. I treat the whole body, finding out where the imbalances are, using holistic approach, chiropractic care, nutritional approach, to reestablish normalcy to the body. When that happens, the body heals itself and function comes back, and the problem that the person is experiencing tends to be healed and goes away. It's all about function of the body, get it back to normal, back to balance, and conditions don't have a chance to be there, because the conditions that I treat and the problems that I treat in my office are always a condition that is where the body is out of balance and there's excess or insufficiency of function somewhere, and reestablishing that balance is really the key. As usual, the triangle of health is the way to approach any type of condition or patient that comes into my office. You have the physical, you have the nutritional, and chemical, and you have the mind, emotions. Physical is the structure of the body. As a chiropractor, I deal with adjusting the spine, the muscles of the body, reestablishing normal structure to the body. When that's done, physical ailments, especially pain conditions, and as you'll find out in a few minutes, endocrine system, organ system function, everything functions better with a body that's physically balanced. The nervous system directly or indirectly runs every single part of the body. And there's no function in the body, there's no organ system, there's no part of the body that is separate or independent from activation or effect from the nervous system. That's key to understand. Nutritional and chemical. Nutritional, obviously, are the things we eat, the things we don't eat, the vitamin supplements we take, what we don't take, water we drink, air that we breathe, everything that comes into the body. It's a lifestyle issue. When we talk about nutritional supplementation, we'll get into some of the caveats and things you need to watch out for. And the chemical are also the things that come into us, the pollution that's around us, the additives and other things in our food that maybe was put there artificially, or they're byproducts of some manufacturing products to preserve shelf life or to enhance flavor. The air that we breathe, the water that we drink, the over-the-counter medications that we take, some of the food colorings in our food that we eat, all those can be considered chemical, even down to the pharmaceuticals, the prescription and non-prescription medications that we take. Mind and emotions. The mind and emotions have a strong impact on our health. A person can literally think themselves sick. They can worry, we're talking about stress, worry, family situation, job situation, the economy for whatever reason might have impact on you. And those are the emotions and the mind that really can be uplifted and promote health, or suppressed and gotten into a negative situation, and that can lessen the health of a person. So when we think about PMS condition in women, the first approach is, how does the physical part of the body, how does that impact premenstrual syndrome of the body? PMS is an imbalance in the hormone system of the body. It can come from a number of different areas. It can come from a number of different causes, and the effects can be mood swings, can be irritability, can be all the way to depression, can be lethargy, can be excitement, hyper condition, can be tiredness, fatigue, lack of concentration, menstrual cramps. The physical symptoms of PMS can be quite profound. Changes in eating patterns, changes in sleep patterns, hyperexcitability. The range is enormous for a woman suffering with PMS. It can range all the way from mild, a little bit of discomfort, to situations where a woman is so debilitated they have to go to bed and really rest, and they're taken out of commission because the symptoms are so severe and so pronounced you literally can't function. And in those severe cases, even assuming there's no tumors or those types of pathological conditions, even in those severe cases, much can be done to alleviate the problems and lessen the symptoms and create more balance in the endocrine system. Where it comes from, like I said, is from the hormone interplay of the menstrual cycle. And when those hormones go up and down, they circulate into the body and they have different effects. If there's an imbalance in the body in any of these areas, the effects can be exaggerated because of in one area or lessened in another, depending on the hormone that's being talked about. Hypoglycemia oftentimes accompanies PMS syndrome. The reason why hypoglycemia is low blood sugar. Low blood sugar can in and of itself create many of the symptoms that are associated with PMS. To understand hypoglycemia, think about a diabetic who functions normally, but one day takes too much insulin. Takes too much insulin, it drops the blood sugar, the glucose blood sugar value down way too low. What happens with that diabetic who takes too much insulin? They start getting sweats, they start getting shaky, they can't concentrate, and if it's severe enough, there'll literally be a life-threatening situation where the blood sugar is so low, they'll pass out, start having tremors, sweating profusely, and that's called diabetic shock. And it's simply too much insulin dropping the blood sugar, glucose, down too low, and it creates a diabetic shock condition. Well, similar things happen in hypoglycemia. Hypoglycemia is low hypoglycemia, blood sugar. Same thing is similar to the diabetic doing it with insulin. The effects usually aren't as dramatic or as life-threatening as a diabetic shock, but the mechanism and the situation is exactly the same. Low blood sugar, down too low, whether it's driven by insulin or the dysfunction of the body, the blood sugar is still too low. It's going to create those similar symptoms of shakiness, lack of concentration, nervousness, excessive sweating, close to passing out, fatigue, intense fatigue. Now the cause is different, but the effects are the same. In hypoglycemia, hypoglycemia often accompanies PMS because the hormones that are circulating in the body have an effect on blood sugar in many different ways. And if the hormones that are circulating are out of balance, or the body itself is out of balance, a too high sugar diet, then hypoglycemia can result, which can mimic many of the PMS type of symptoms. So that's more the nutritional chemical area. So I got a little bit off track there, but I think it's important to understand that term, and we'll get to that in a few minutes. Again, back to the physical. If PMS is an imbalance in the body, from an endocrine system, from a glandular system. What did I say a few minutes ago? Every system of the body, every gland, every hormone level is directly or indirectly affected by the nervous system. And the physical chiropractic spinal manipulations that I or any chiropractor does deals specifically with the nervous system. If the nervous system is out of balance, wherever the nerves of the spine go will be out of balance, either hypo or hyper. So you have someone with the spine here, and these nerves go to all the different organ systems of the body. Let's say it goes to the pancreas or the liver. If the nerve going to the pancreas or liver is not functioning properly, pancreas or liver is not going to function properly. Again, we're not talking about a pathology, a tumor, a death of tissue. We're talking about function. It's like a rheostat on a light. If you dim the rheostat and dim the dimmer, the light goes down. It's strictly a functional thing, not ripping out the wires and not having a light that doesn't work at all. So that's important to understand. This is not pathology we're talking about. This is strictly function of the body. So the nerves that go to the different organ systems, if they're out of balance, how can the organ systems and endocrine system and hormone levels, how can they be in balance? If one organ system or gland system is getting excessive nervous impulse because of a pinched nerve in the spine, then it's going to secrete more of its hormones or more of it, or whatever it does secrete out, or it's going to secrete less if it's less of a function. So depending on the nervous system, where the nervous system imbalance is, and to which organ and glandular systems it goes to, it's important to make sure that the nervous system is balanced, not too low, not too high, so that the organ system and glandular system at the end of those nerves function normally. That's where chiropractic comes in, adjusting the spine, making sure there's no irritation to nerves that are going to these systems to create this high or low function. And when that's done, now the nerve flow is even throughout the whole body. And it may take a few visits for that to happen, but still it does happen with the chiropractic treatment. So PMS affected by the physical, by the chiropractic approach dealing with the nervous system is a viable way to lessen the symptoms, and it's a first step in the treating of a PMS type of condition. The second area is nutritional and chemical. I talked a little bit about it, hypoglycemia. Hypoglycemia is they call it the great mimicker. It can mimic, it can impersonate many, many different conditions, many different situations in the body. And if you symptom chase, look for sweating, look for low blood pressure, look for this, look for that. All you do is you symptom chase. And symptom chasing is not, in the way I approach things, is not a viable way to treat a person. You treat the person, establish balance, symptoms go away. It's very, very simple concept. So rather than chase all the symptoms and give, let's say, a medication for the nervousness, the person's nervous because their blood sugar is low, and give a tranquilizer, let's say, from a medical doctor because they're nervous. Well, why don't investigate why the nervousness is there? If it's because of low blood sugar, and it can be discerned and found out very quickly by someone who's trained to look and to evaluate the hypoglycemic condition. If a person's nervous and irritable and highs and lows and moody all the time, what good is a tranquilizer going to do except numb the person and not really get to the true cause of it? If the true cause is low blood sugar because of poor diet, high sugar, dysfunction of the pancreas because of pinched nerves in the spine, nutritional deficiency, excessive sugar intake, as I said, even artificial sweetener, that can create a whole range of symptoms by themselves. So if the hypoglycemic condition is caused by a lifestyle issue, giving the medications is not going to get to the cause and treat the real reason why this person's having that hypoglycemic condition. It's going to symptom chase. The sweating, the person sweats a lot, person can't sleep. Now they give them an anti-sweating medication. That from a medical point of view, that makes perfect sense. From what I'm talking about, it makes no sense. Person can't sleep because the blood sugar drops in 3 o'clock in the morning. Blood sugar drops 3 o'clock in the morning, you wake up, what's the symptom? You're hungry. Hypoglycemia triggers appetite, time to eat, get the blood sugar up. So at 3 o'clock in the morning, a person wakes up, now they go to the, let's say, the medical doctor and can't sleep, prescription for some type of tranquilizer or some kind of sleep aid that really, again, does not address the hypoglycemic condition. So you see where I'm going here. Where I'm going is the symptom chasing aspect of this particular one specific condition. And this is only one of the many reasons why a woman can have a PMS condition. And just by this one, you can, if that's only one condition and it can have all these consequences by being there, then what about the other conditions? So you see it becomes a witch's brew of symptom chasing and a medication for this or something for that, or it's ineffective because it doesn't even really get to the cause. What's the cause? Get the body back to normal balance. Eliminate the hypoglycemia, and all the symptoms associated with hypoglycemia go away. And low blood sugar is an environmental, it's a lifestyle issue. It's what a person eats, what they don't eat, whether they're overweight, underweight. All those factors need to be evaluated in order to effectively look at a person to see if the hypoglycemic condition is there. And I do that in my office. I'll just by consultation go into what a person eats, have them fill out a food diary, 7 days, everything that's eaten will go into it. After 7 days, I look at that, and it's amazing how that will speak, and it has lots to say just by what a person eats and how they eat and when they eat and all that. And a lot of times it can be coupled with the symptoms. So that's just one condition of PMS that can be from a nutritional. Vitamin mineral supplementation is important in this. For a woman who has PMS, it's a given, in my opinion, that there is a nutritional deficiency. That's not going to be answered by eating better foods and doing it through diet. For anything that's that severe to be showing up, nutritional support, because the condition has gone so far advanced, is needed. And you get into vitamin mineral supplementation, essential fatty acids, which are the fish oils. Evening primrose oil has been around for decades and decades. It's a form of oil that gives certain types of the fatty acids. So nutritional evaluation is really of primary importance for PMS. I've had patients where I've treated them, and just by changing what they eat, what they don't eat, PMS has gone down by 75%. Add the rest of it and it goes down even more. So nutritional component to PMS is huge, 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 huge. It's very big and needs to be evaluated in any woman who has PMS condition. The chemical, are there any chemicals around? Are there medications being taken for other conditions that are causing nutritional imbalances and nutritional deficiencies, causing more of a need for certain vitamin minerals because the prescription medication in and of themselves can make the body work harder and need to, in order to metabolize the medication, and in doing that, it depletes the vitamins and minerals in the body even more. So you get that cycle going. So nutritional deficiency is a given in a PMS condition. Mind and emotions. This is one that's very difficult to really evaluate and to see which is it, the chicken or the egg. Is a woman depressed and having a bad attitude, let's say, or is moody and irritable, doesn't have a good outlook on life, wakes up a little semi-depressed, melancholy? Is it from the fact that that's the nature of who she is and she's going through a stressful time in her life or a stressful period and it just needs to pass? Or is it from the PMS that's wearing the woman down? You put a woman or anyone in pain for a long enough time, and every month the same thing. How can a person tolerate that for so long and not get irritable and not get moody? Okay, those are the conditions so that happen as a consequence of the pain, and also it can go back either way as well. So again, the chicken and the egg is really the cause and effect that's kind of unknown here in many cases. But it doesn't matter, because the mind and emotions, what I do is I listen to them, find out what they are, and the vast majority of times, the mind and emotions that are negative, the irritability, the melancholy, the depression, the lack of drive, lack of interest in everyday activities, vast majority of the time it's because of the nutritional deficiency and the physical imbalance in the body. When these are corrected, and let's say the hypoglycemia, for example, is corrected, then the mind and emotions change. The irritability lessens, goes away. The mood swings lessen, go away. All these mind and emotion negative parts of the problem tend to go away. And it's my experience that the vast majority of the problem here is not originally with a woman who has these emotions. It's a consequence of the imbalances in these areas. And the emotions and the mind and the attitudes and the whole outlook change once the body's brought back to balance. So really, for me, it doesn't matter, the chicken or the egg concept really doesn't matter, because it's going to be fixed anyway by fixing these two areas here. Let's see. So now you've got a kind of an overall picture of this. It's a lot more detailed to look into, especially from the nutritional point of view. When the lifestyle and the eating habits need to change, it's very easy, very simple to do. They can be done through what I suggest, or can go to a nutritional consultant to try to get things back on track from that point of view. And the experience that I've had in treating women with these symptoms is adjust the spine, get the body nutritionally sound, give the building blocks and the nutrition that it needs to heal itself, and the PMS symptoms lessen, the cramps, all the irritability, the bloating, all those things lessen. Now, did I treat anything specifically? No. All I did was bring back to balance the function of the body based on what I found from a physical point of view, which is chiropractic, and from a nutritional deficiency point of view. And by doing that, it sounds simple, and it is simple. And it doesn't symptom chase. It doesn't look for one symptom after another and how to affect it. There's no wondering where the symptoms come from. And in doing that, these conditions really resolve quite readily. Okay, that's the first topic. Next topic I'd like to talk about. Shouldn't have done that. Next topic is asthma / allergies. Okay, again, the triangle of health. A lot of you are asking, what on earth can a chiropractor do to help lessen asthma and lessen or eliminate allergies? I thought chiropractors only did pain, back pain, neck pain, shoulder pain. How on earth can these things be treated? You might have even asked the same question when I talked about PMS. Well, how does a chiropractor have anything to do with that? Well, we do, and I do at least. Asthma, allergies can have a similar cause. I'll talk about them separately. Asthma, we're not talking about the life-threatening condition of asthma where a person's on heavy medication. Those types of situations can lessen in severity with chiropractic treatment from the way I'm going to talk about it. But there's less of a chance of getting off those medications. But anything's possible and anything's doable. I've learned that over my 33 years of experience. But the chances of that happening are less. And people seeking chiropractic help for asthma, who have severe asthma and taking heavy medication, are usually not open-minded enough, usually not oriented to anything that's going to help them, because it's so delicate a situation that the medications, without them, if you've ever had shortness of breath, if you ever had been underwater trying to breathe, that's what an asthmatic condition is like, and it's just horrifyingly scary to get in that area of not being able to breathe, even just a little bit. So the medications are so person's so dependent on the medications that there's really not much of a chance that they will even consider any other option. So that group of people, which basically is a minority of people, is what I'm talking about. Asthma in its mild to moderate cases can be treated by an inhaler once in a while, maybe some medication in the severe case, an inhaler when it's not even every day, just when the episodes happen. Those are the cases that I'm talking about, the mild to moderate. And those, there's not much tissue change that have happened with the dependence on medication that many severe asthmatics have. They're so dependent, the body is so dependent on these medications that to withdraw and wean them off is next to impossible. So we'll keep that aside from talking about that group of people. And they are the minority, so that's the good part of that. But asthma, the way I look at it is from the triangle of health, same type of thing. What's the physical component, what's the nutritional, and what's the mind-emotion point of view? Asthma is basically a constriction of the tubes in the lungs. Okay, you have the lungs, you have these tubes, and they get constricted, and they get smaller. So you can't get air basically out. When that happens, the constriction around here, there are muscular walls around these alveoli, and there are muscular walls throughout the whole bronchial tree. And when those muscular walls contract, they need to expand, and inhalers tend to do that. When the muscular walls of these of the lung tissue are constricted, there's an inability or a lessening of the air to pass through it. Now, what controls a muscle? What makes a muscle contract? So if I raise my arm, my shoulder muscle contracts and it goes up. But what initiated that? First initiated in my mind, but a nerve from the brain down through the neck up to my shoulder said, raise my arm. So I raised my arm, it goes up. Now, my point is that it's still under control of the nervous system. Remember what I said before. The nervous system, directly or indirectly, affects every single part of the body. Every organ system, every gland system, every muscular wall around every artery, around every tubule in the lungs, everything is affected by the nervous system. So what happens when you have a nervous system in the spine? It's usually the thoracic spine, which is right here from the lower part of the neck to maybe the top of the shoulder blade or the middle of the back. And that area are the nerves that go to the lungs. Okay. If you look on any anatomical chart, any Gray's Anatomy, any chart of the physical anatomy of the body, you'll find that this area of the spine sends nerves to the lungs, so the lungs can function properly and the diaphragm can function properly. So what happens when you have a muscular wall around the different parts of the lung and you have a hyper nerve? So you have a nerve here and it's firing a lot, a huge amount of firing. That's called muscular contraction. It contracts this muscle, it goes up. If you have that around a wall of an artery, it collapses the artery, restricts blood flow. If it happens in the lungs, it constricts the passages of air passing through the bronchial tree. the different tubules in the bronchi, in the lungs. So if you constrict that because of hyper nerve function, in other words, a pinched nerve in the spine, you get a constriction of airflow. Difficulty breathing. What's asthma? Difficulty breathing. A little bit more complicated than that, but that's basically what it is. Passing of air in and out of the lungs. So you have a hyper nerve constricting the lung tissue, restricting the passage of air. Then asthma. Take an inhaler of some sort or medication, or wait a few minutes. Artificially, it opens up the air passages, bypasses the pinched nerve, the hyper nerve, bypasses it and forces the passages to open up with a pharmaceutical, a medication. Okay? It's great, gets the person breathing, but the next day, if the pinched nerve has not been alleviated and fixed, what happens the next day or whenever? Inevitably, it happens again. Airflow restricted, need more of an inhaler or a medication, open it up again. So you have this back and forth, back and forth. What's this called? It's called symptom chasing. What's the real cause, in this example I'm using, the real cause of the restriction of airflow? It's a pinched nerve in the spine, in the upper thoracic spine, restricting the airflow in the lungs. As a chiropractor, what do? Remove the pinched nerve. Instead of now having a hyper nerve, you have a normal nerve. If you have a normal nerve, you don't get the restriction, you don't get the constriction of airflow, you have nice, healthy airflow. The body can function right. So just by adjusting the spine over a period of time, the constriction can be alleviated over a period of time so that the airflow is lessened. I had a patient over the last 2 or 3 months who came in with upper back pain, coincidentally, and neck pain. And in the case history, found out she takes an inhaler every once in a while, she has an asthmatic condition, and she has difficulty breathing once in a while. So this came up in the case history. And I didn't pay too much attention to it except note it down and make a note in the notes. She was there for the neck pain, upper back pain, and tightness that she was feeling, and that's what I treated her for. 2 months later, she said to me, "Oh, by the way, I haven't been taking my inhaler, I haven't been taking my medication for asthma anymore," because she says she hasn't needed it. So it was out of my mind and thought that I was treating her and that she had it. I had forgotten about it. But 2 months later, she told me that she didn't have any need for the medication anymore. And all I was doing, all is not, the chiropractic treatment I was giving to her was the only therapy I was giving to her. I wasn't giving any nutritional support. Certainly wasn't treating her mind and emotions because she didn't need it. All I was doing was adjusting the spine, getting rid of her symptoms, secondarily to establishing normal function of the body. So when I adjusted the spine, did my work, did what I had to do, the body took it upon itself to say, "Oh, thank you. I don't need my medication." This woman didn't need her medication anymore because her body had healed itself strictly by adjusting the spine, getting hyper nerves that was affecting her breathing back to normal, and she didn't need the medication anymore. So that was really a classic example of how the chiropractic, the physical component, the pinched nerve, the spine, the nervous system, can affect an asthma type of condition. And everyone who comes in to me, rarely does someone come to see me who says, "I have asthma, can you help me?" Again, because people's ideas and concepts about what chiropractic is less. But I get my share of those people who do that because I've helped people in the past, and those people have friends who have asthma, who have allergies, we'll get to it. They say, "Oh, went to Dr. Girouard and what he did was able to help me and I feel better and the medication I don't need to take anymore." So just by fixing the spine from a chiropractic point of view, the word spreads to the point where people were coming in now once in a while for a primary condition of difficulty breathing. And again, I approach it, I don't treat conditions, I treat the function of the body. I don't tell people to come off medication at all. I tell them that's their purview and to make the decision for themselves with their medical doctor who prescribed it. I just do my job, fix what I find, establish normal function, and let everything else take care of itself. So that's how asthma can be affected strictly by nutrition, by the physical. The nutritional component. Many times asthma, people who have asthma have an immune system that's compromised, have an adrenal system that's really compromised. And adrenals have to do with energy and the corticosteroids and function, inflammatory, anti-inflammatory hormones, all that type of thing. So those organ systems can be imbalanced. And oftentimes, if they have asthma for a long enough period of time and the nutritional component of their problem is significant enough, they'll need some supplementation, be it vitamin mineral supplementation, herbal therapy. There are a lot of herbs for bronchial function and for breathing function that have been used for thousands of years. And Chinese herbs, American herbs used throughout the world. Herbs that have the properties of establishing back to normal functions of the body in specific areas. If the lungs are not functioning properly, there are a group of herbs that deal with lung function and circulation. And the research has been done throughout the world on herbs and herbal therapy for these types of conditions. And again, I'm not treating a condition with an herb, I'm treating an imbalance. It's just that it's labeled for a specific area because these herbs affect what that area is. So the nutritional component is important. There may be some nutritional triggers, meaning a person may be eating a diet that has a lot of sugar, fat, additives unknown until they fill out a diet diary. Once they fill out a diet diary, have a good idea about what they're eating and drinking, then I can see if there's a trigger for this. It may trigger an allergic response. They may have a food sensitivity, where many people have food sensitivities and don't really know about it, except it shows up in a condition. And an asthmatic condition can be on a low grade level, triggered and exacerbated and prolonged by a food trigger. And if that's the case, then nutritional component needs to be evaluated. And once that's done, then how the nutrition impacts this specific person can be determined, and if need be, supplementation or changing of the diet can be done in order to prevent the triggers, or in the case of supplementation, provide the building blocks necessary for healing. For some people who have had asthma for years and years and years and years, it's a given that there's a nutritional deficiency. The body's not functioning right, hasn't been functioning right for many, many years. They have a poor diet. And this, again, the simple way is eat better food, eat more greens, vegetables, fruits, and all that. But for a person to have a pathological condition that shows itself as an allergy over long-standing for a long period of time over many years, then stronger intervention is necessary. And that intervention takes the form of supplementation. If it's someone who hasn't had it for very long or has it mild, they might not, like that woman I was just talking about, they might not need that type of support from a nutritional point of view. But in some people, they are so depleted, so deficient, they need intervention, stronger intervention than simply what diet can change. Chemical, there may be chemical triggers. They may be taking medications that trigger the allergic response, that trigger the asthma. So you get a kind of a complicated situation here. But when I look at a case, or any competent chiropractor looks at a case, he can sort through and discern where the red flags are, where the major areas need to be looked at and evaluated. And when that's done, then the experience can really be a big factor in that. Mind and emotions. Someone can have an asthmatic condition. They're kind of right on the edge of the cliff, where they're kind of walking on solid ground, but once they get off, pushed over, they just fall off the cliff. They need to get back, way back from the cliff, so that if there is an emotional event or something happens that's stressful, it doesn't push them over the edge to having a full-blown asthmatic attack. So the emotions and minds can trigger an asthmatic event, can trigger these types of conditions in a person. But it doesn't mean that the person needs to be looked at and thought of as this. It could be just normal life situations. And if it's normal life situations with the stresses and strains and ins and outs and ups and downs triggering, then this person doesn't need this evaluated. They need to look at these two to make their body stronger so it can tolerate the stress without going over the cliff into a full-blown asthmatic attack or even something close to it. So the mind emotions, again, can be secondary or even third place to these two areas here. And it's not often that the mind and emotions play a role in the asthmatic condition. Now, there may be information that come down. I've seen it everywhere. There are certain personality traits for this and personality traits for that, and a person who's high-strung this or low-strung that, and all this other psychological evaluation type stuff. That may be a fact that the people who do those studies come up with, but it's my opinion that personality traits don't dictate conditions that people have if the condition is because of a nutritional deficiency or imbalance or a physical imbalance in their body. The hyperexcitability of a person, let's say, is more prone to asthma. That may be the conclusion of a study. Well, the reason why the hyperexcitability of a person elicits an asthmatic response is because they're right close to the edge of the cliff, because their body is worn down, it's worn out. So any hyperexcitability, any excited state is going to push them over the edge to a full-blown asthmatic attack or something close to it. Does that mean that that personality predisposes a person to that? In my opinion, no. It means they have imbalances that if you fix them, they can get all excited they want. They're not going to have an asthmatic attack because their body's strong enough to handle the emotions that before precipitated an attack. That's how I look at things. Make the body stronger, create function in the body that's normal, and the emotions and minds, by and large, in the majority of times, cannot and do not elicit the symptoms of the condition that we're talking about or that the person has, in this case, asthma. So that's asthma. Allergies, we're talking about seasonal allergies, not so much food allergies. But allergies. Spring allergies, fall allergies, summer allergies, winter allergies. There's all kinds of different times of year, all different combinations, depending on the season, depending on the climate, depending on its indoor, outdoor. The cause and the reasons why an allergy exists is fundamentally the same. It's an overreaction of the immune system. Allergies, seasonal allergies, let's talk about seasonal allergies. Pollen, dust, mold spores, whatever's out there, triggers a reaction of symptoms of stuffiness in the head. We all know the symptoms of allergies. It's the immune system going into hyperdrive. It's hypersensitive. It's overreacting to these little particles that are floating around. When you have that overreaction of the immune system, you have a cascade of events that show up as all the symptoms of an allergic response. For seasonal allergies, basically what we're talking about, food allergies, sort of what we're talking about, Indoor allergies can be included in what I'm talking about. But anytime you get an overreaction, overstimulation of the immune system, you get an allergic response. Now, again, let's start where we always start, the physical. If the physical nervous system of a person is out of balance, there are a lot of pinched nerves in the spine, there's a lot of nervous system hyperexcitability. Remember I talked about that. You can have pinched nerves in the spine and they create hyper condition. Nerve is firing. So it's overstimulating. Or it can create hypo, where the nerve flow is lessened, like pinching a hose, no water comes out. You can have either, and depending on which part of the nervous system is stimulated, the sympathetic or parasympathetic, you can get a hyper or hypo function. The sympathetic system is a branch and division of the nervous system. It has a certain effect on the body. The parasympathetic has the opposite effect on the body. So you have that balance that needs to be established. If you have pinched nerves in different parts of the body, you get hyper or hypo result from that. And depending on where the nerves go, you get a hyper or hypo function of the nervous system, function of the organ system, gland system, whatever you want. The point that I'm getting at is there's an imbalance. And I, as a chiropractor, when I treat a spine, I treat the spine, find out where the pinched nerves are, reestablish normalcy to that, let the body take over. The body knows much better than I will ever, or anyone will ever know about how to heal itself. The basic concept I have, and it's very simple, create balance. The body knows when to calm down the hyper or increase the hypo. In its wisdom, the body knows that. And it will do that when you remove the pressures in the spine, pressures on the nervous system. So I leave that to the body to decide. This is what I focus on, the spine. So you have a hyper or hypo condition, overstimulation, overreaction of the immune system. That part of the immune system that's been overstimulated or understimulated now is normally stimulated. The immune system is functioning normally now. It's not functioning in a hyper state, it's not functioning in a lower state, because simply removing the nerve interference, removing the hyper or hypo, now allows the immune system to function in a balanced state, or the other parts of the endocrine system, or the adrenal system, or the lungs, or the mucosa of the nose, or the head, everything that gets a nerve impulse, nerve innervation, which is every part of the body, will now be normal. I'm just specifically talking about the immune system, but that's not the only system that's normalized. Every part of this body is normalized. And when you normalize every part of the body heals. It's simple as that. Very, very simple, basic concept. So now you have you remove the interference in the spine. You have now normal. Okay. Not hyper, not hypo. Everything's nice and normal. You don't get overstimulation or reaction of the nervous system. You now have a normal immune system and every other system of the body. So now you've got these dust particles or mold spores or oak or maple or pollen from weeds, whatever. They're floating around, they come in contact with the body. The body's not hyper, it's not hypo. It's nice and normal, flowing along nicely. No impact at all, no consequence. Person doesn't get an allergic response. The allergies tend to go away. If the body needs some additional assistance from the nutritional component, there are protocols that I've used over the years that have been very successful. Homeopathic remedies specific for the different zones of the country. And each zone has a group of pollutants, pollen and air and weeds and all that. Each zone has a different one. Depending on where a person's living, you choose that zone. give them that homeopathic remedy for that zone, along with some basic other nutritional support, and the symptoms and the reactions to the pollens and all those other irritants will tend to go away. And results have been very good with that. And it's a curative effect. What happens next year? Do we have to do the same thing again? Maybe, maybe not. I've had people come in, they do it once for that particular time of year when they're having a problem, do it once, give them a sound nutritional program, do the homeopathic remedies, do the chiropractic, and that's in and of itself enough to have a curative effect. And it creates such balance and such normalcy in the body that the person doesn't need the homeopathic remedy anymore, doesn't need the nutritional support, because the body's essentially healed. And in healing, these types of stimulants irritants don't happen, and the allergic response doesn't happen anymore. So years go on, and there's no, the conditions don't come back again. If they do, a person wants to be on the safe side, they can do it for 2 or 3 years during those specific times of year, and keep up a somewhat of a nutritional approach. Maybe not the homeopathic, because that's seasonal, if it's seasonal, but nutritional component, keep getting the adjustments, and the body will heal itself. So people might think that, well, I have to do this the rest of my life. No, that's not necessarily true, because once you establish normalcy in the body and you heal itself, then the work is done. Herbs and herbal therapies, especially homeopathic remedies especially, are curative. They're not to be taken necessarily for long periods of time beyond what their intended purpose is. Vitamin mineral supplementation, that's a different story. Those are components that we need on an everyday basis. We need vitamins B1, 2, we need magnesium, calcium. We need these things to carry on normal everyday function. And in doing that, it's nice to replenish them from a nutritional point of view by taking a supplement to make sure we're getting enough of the vitamin and minerals. But when you're dealing with herbs, dealing with homeopathic remedies, they have an effect. They have a curative effect. They establish the organ system in a healing way back to normal, and the need for that herb or homeopathic remedy goes away. If in a later date that person has that area of their body as a weakness, and it's their Achilles heel, we all have them, I have mine, everyone has them. An area that if something's going to happen in a weakened body, this is the area where it's going to show up in. And for a person with this, with an allergic tendency, the weakness in their system might be their immune system or some system that creates an allergic response. It's not necessarily difficult to deal with. It just needs a little bit more attention than it would for someone who doesn't have that as a weakness in their body. But we all have weaknesses, we all have areas. A chain is only strong as its weakest link type thing. So again, this is not necessarily something that a person continues again and again, year after year. It has a curative effect. The mind and emotions. Again, back to what I'm talking about with asthma, I'm talking the same thing here. It's thought of in some areas that mind and emotions and personalities have an effect on what condition they will get. That may be true in some areas, but in this type of area, I don't see that as being true at all. All it means is that there's a nutritional or physical component that needs to be addressed and fixed, and once that's fixed, the body heals itself. When the body heals itself, these symptoms do not come back. I've talked a lot about basic concept, basic ideas, not symptom chasing, not treating something with a medication, be it over-the-counter or prescription, to chase a symptom. I'm all for allergy symptom relief, believe me. Person suffering with that, just to get through it. But it is nice to know, and it's reassuring to know that it doesn't necessarily have to be that way. That if a person really wants to have more of a curative effect, more of something that takes the edge off the vast, huge majority of their symptoms, then there are ways to do it that's not drug oriented or not prescription or even over-the-counter drug oriented, to where a person has to take these over and over again. And if for people who are open-minded enough to really have a severe enough condition to have this treated, give this a chance to digest and give it some thought. Thank you for tuning in. I trust it's been a good, some information for you. If you have any questions, give me a call. I'd be glad to help you, and I wish you a good night and have a healthy day. Thank you.
Let me sail, let the Orinoco flow. Let me reach, let me beach on the shores of Tripoli. Let me sail, let me crash upon the shore. Let me reach, let me beach far beyond